Welcome to SALTovation. The SALTovation Show is a podcast series featuring the leading voices in SALT, where we talk about the issues and strategies to help you make sense of state and local tax. All right, Florian, thank you so much for being here on the SALTovation podcast. We really look forward to this discussion today.
Thank you very much for the invite.
So you've transitioned from a background in politics and government to specializing in indirect tax, particularly the VAT. You started with KPMG in Switzerland. And so could you talk us through that transition? What drew you to indirect tax? And what about kind of the VAT captured your interest?
Well, politics is my passion. It remains my passion. It will always be my passion. I was working in the European Parliament for a couple of years, and it was probably the best time of my life. I had a girlfriend. She was in Switzerland, and after a couple of years of commuting between Brussels and Zurich, I decided to go to Switzerland under the condition that I find a decent job. And just for 2 years, and to write some thesis and do a PhD, and then go back to politics. That was 20 years ago. I'm still in Zurich. What brought me into indirect taxes is I wanted to do something international. The European Parliament is probably the most international workspace you can actually have. You have currently 27 different countries working for a goal, different parties, but extremely international. And I was growing up in a very international family. One of my brothers is living in Prague, in the Czech Republic, the rest in Vienna and Austria. We always had friends or kids from somewhere else staying with our family because my parents pushed us to learn languages as much as possible, and then we did exchanges. So internationalism is, I grew up with internationalism, and when I was looking for a decent job in Switzerland where I can earn enough money to raise a family, then everybody said, well, you like taxes at university, start with VAT, because this is the most international tax you can actually get to. And that was with KPMG and then Deloitte. And I have to confirm this is what I like. I don't want to be responsible for one country, for Switzerland. My father was a lawyer. My grandfather was a lawyer. My brothers are lawyers. This is all focused on one country. And I wanted to see more. I wanted to get in touch with more people, other cultures, other countries, other languages. And that's the reason why why we are sitting here today talking about VAT and customs duties, because it's getting interesting when we have different countries involved.
Yes, that's amazing. Podcasting is generally an audio platform. And so, but the way that you speak of kind of internationalism and wanting to do something from like a larger scale, just your face lights up. So you can truly tell just in the way that you speak about it, just like how passionate you are about it. And that's wonderful. And, you know, us as state and local tax professionals, right, we are isolated to one country, right? But with all of our own, with the state's governing bodies that can do kind of what they want within that, you know, kind of that same passion we have, which I think is why we brought you on to kind of talk about the other side of kind of what we do from, you know, a greater country perspective. So thank you for spending that time to share that passion with us.
Yes, I think when we have clients or taxpayers that are maybe global and they start doing business in the U.S., they're surprised at how the states are so different. And so a lot of times we say, yeah, the states are pretty much each a different country. So think about it that way. So I think that's why we can align a little bit, right? Because we get excited about it. It's a little bit of a puzzle, but I think those of us that do this like puzzles. And so that's part of the reason that we're in it.
Absolutely.
And so with the complexity of VAT regulations, companies are increasingly in need of experts like yourself. How did you cultivate kind of that expertise in VAT, and what experiences contributed to kind of like growing that knowledge and gaining that context to kind of become the expert that you are?
My first director at KPMG, she was from Argentina, and she was very, very also driven by international clients and international knowledge and curiosity on indirect taxes. And I was closely working with her together, so focusing on the LATAM region, but nevertheless not losing also the sight on Europe and what's going on in Europe. And very similar what you said right beforehand. Although we have the European Union, every country is a little bit, well, it's a very similar regulation from an indirect tax perspective, but every country is nevertheless is different. And she showed me actually how you work internationally. She also how shall I say, she made me curious learning more about the different countries and the different regions. Well, I knew that we have a VAT system in Europe, but how is it working in the Latin region? How is it working in the African region, Asia Pacific? And I learned a lot. We had many, many calls with the Latin region and, late at night in Switzerland. And we had pizza sessions at midnight because we had calls with Latin partners and Latin clients. But it was a lot of fun. And she really supported me, and she really encouraged me to do this, also to continue to do this. And this, because I grew up international, I'm really interested in internationalism. This was, I would say, the starting point of that it's actually good to have somebody who knows how the indirect tax system in the different areas of the world is really focusing. I know everybody's expecting this from the Big Four, but when I left the Big Four, I started a mid-size. I started to build up a mid-sized. I started to build up the indirect tax practice of a mid-sized company, and there I used my knowledge I gained in KPMG and Deloitte to build up a network, not of the Big Four, but it was the Big Four, but with VAT experts all around the world. And I'm still very proud of this network because I have VAT or indirect tax specialists in, I would say, 60 or 70% of all the countries. They know me. We are working close together. I'm not just a number. They know me, how I'm working, how I'm thinking, what I need. And it's just so much fun to work together with them. And at the very end, assist the companies. I'm the point of contact for the companies. They have issues in New Zealand. They have issues in, South Africa. They have issues in Chile. They approach me. And then with my network, I can help the companies. And it's a people's business. It's wonderful talking with the companies, understanding the issues they need and the questions they have. Number one, with my VAT knowledge, I can tell them, and that's also what I think is needed to be pointed out, is when you understand the VAT system in one country, you can use it in all the other countries. It's everywhere more or less working the same, but with some local specifics. So I can tell them on a high level basis, it should be like this, it should be like that. And then when we go into detail, I'm contacting my people in the different areas of the world. And that's really a lot of fun. Again, I'm not the person sitting the whole time in front of a computer and reading contracts and laws. Well, we have to do this, but I also really like talking to people.
I think really probably resonates with myself and Stacy, and just that, like, it's the people. We've never gone in, well, I've never gone in-house because I love being able to talk with a software company over here, a manufacturing company over here, just a variety of businesses, a variety of people, because as you said, it truly is a people business.
Yeah. And what I have many of my clients are based in the US, and the US is so completely different, or the indirect tax system in the US is completely different to the indirect tax system of what is called VAT or GST. And, I like the US. I went to high school in the US. I got engaged in the US. Is the country of my heart. And then I love traveling to the US and meeting people like you, like we do it now, but also companies and clients, and talk through about the indirect tax issues globally.
Well, I think we just have a few more to send your way.
Yeah.
That's not the reason why I said it now.
No, but it's just.
It's not a
Yeah,
shameless
right.
plug. It's okay.
No,
It's okay.
maybe
for
it is.
No.
It's okay.
Right.
I mean it like this. I mean it. It's just a lot of fun assisting companies.
Well,
Yeah.
and it maybe it is kind of the inbound outbound depending on kind of what side, if we're going to talk, kind of in isolation between the US and Europe. Right, we often get involved with companies who they know there's a sales tax issue. So let's figure out our domestic issues first. And then once we have a good feel about what we're doing, have kind of context around implementing a system in order to get compliant. Now let's look at the other regions of the world. And so it's
Right.
like, okay, we've got, from a domestic standpoint, we're in really good shape for our US kind of indirect taxes. Now it's time to introduce the VAT. So do you think you have clients kind of similarly, but maybe European clients who are all right, we might have some VAT issues. Let's get those up and running, and then now where are we kind of all over the world and looking for compliance for kind of their non-domestic taxes or indirect taxes.
Absolutely. So, honestly speaking, I think it's a little bit difficult for me to get Swiss-based clients, because I'm non-Swiss, and meeting the companies I'm working on. terraVAT is a very new company, and my big aim is to get to Swiss companies, but they are wonderful Swiss companies. They are also acting, of course, globally, all over the world, also the US. And so I think there are many clients, or there are many companies who need also assistance in the US. So definitely yes. And in the last couple of months, we had these issues already, that they were looking for assistance also outside of Europe, and for us, first we have to conquer and succeed in Europe before we cross the Atlantic Oceans to go to the US.
Yep.
And but that's the first target, of course, when succeeding with their business in Europe.
So what would you say are the biggest challenges companies face in understanding kind of their VAT obligations?
There are funny stories. Well, I told you already, I've been to the US, and I had many discussions also with US people. When the European Union, and also, well, not only the European Union, Switzerland and the UK, they implemented a system for electronically supplied services. So when there's a supplier of electronically supplied services, and there are private individuals in Europe or in Switzerland and the UK, and they are using this against a certain payment, then the supplier, even if they're outside of Europe, so let's take it, the suppliers in the US, then they have to register in Europe, and they have to charge local VAT, whether a private individual is. So the typical example is a dating platform based in the US. All the people are in the US, all the engineers are in the US. They are never, ever traveling to Europe. But because they are private individuals who are paying in order to see the pictures and the text and communicate with each other, place of supply will always be where the private individual is, and this dating platform has to register and charge European VAT. And then when this was when this was introduced about 5 or 6 years ago, I had a discussion with a US company. They approached me if this is really correct and in writing. And then I said, yes, unluckily, I'm sorry to say, but as long as we are talking about electronically supplied services to a private individual, yes, you have to register and you have to charge VAT. And the reply was, well, in 1776, we threw out the Europeans because they charged tax on us. We should do exactly the same once again. That was really funny, and I will never, ever forget this. But to come to your question back again, I think e-commerce, everything that is done electronically, these are the huge changes we are facing, or companies or suppliers are facing currently. With COVID, e-commerce, raised immensely the sales via e-commerce, and the tax authorities were overwhelmed and had to follow up with their regulations, how to tax this and why, and then in what direction it has to be taxed. And also I see now, that was the first step, e-commerce now, platforms are being taxed, marketplaces are taxed, and now we have big changes coming on in 2025 that events that are streamlined are being taxed when it's streamlined to a private individual. So if there's an event in the US, a huge event, and somebody is sitting in Switzerland and participating at this event because it is streamlined and paying for this, then this event organizer has to register in Switzerland and has to charge VAT. So it's going more and more in the direction that actually where goods and services are being used, VAT will be applicable. And I think these are the huge changes. It's going more and more. Well, I'm sure you know it much better than I do, but from a corporate tax perspective, companies are taxed because their services are used in the countries and not where actually the establishment is. And this is also in this direction. Also, the indirect tax system is working. Is heading to where services, where goods are actually used. This is the place where VAT or GST will be valid, will be applicable. So for companies, this means you need to know where the customers are. In which country? What is the tax rate? What is the good? Is it a service? Is it exempt? There are so many things you have to be aware of that it is impossible for a company, unless they have a huge tax team and they are all VAT specialists, but most of the companies don't have this, you have to have somebody to talk to. And usually I have many clients, they talk to me before they start the business, but this is the ideal way of life for the company and for myself. Usually you start business and then you find out, oops, I missed something.
Yep, we are.
And then time is counting.
Yep,
Right.
we tend to operate in the oops business.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. We are the last ones who get involved.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. I did want to just clarify on the changes that you were just mentioning for 2025. So you said streamlined. So does that mean something that might be digitally streamed to
Yes.
Okay. So like a sporting event or something that would be streamed.
Correct.
Somebody in Switzerland is watching this event.
The NBA finals that are.
For example, I always, when I speak at seminars, I always say, well, I love operas. And then I know that the Metropolitan Opera is streamlining their performances to the whole world.
Sure.
You just pay a little bit. Pay a little bit.
Yep.
And then you can sit in your, in your living room with the computer on your lap and say, okay, I'm watching today, La Traviata from Verdi at the Metropolitan Opera live. I don't know if the Metropolitan Opera really knows that they should charge as per 2025, that they are aware. Now, on the other side, it does not mean automatically that you have to become VAT registered, because that's a cultural performance. And this is from most of the countries, it is exempt from VAT. But I don't know if this applies to every country or not.
Interesting. So,
and then,
go ahead.
Then you have to know where your customers are. Are you still doing this also in the future? Yes or no? Do you want that? Well, of course, you have to pay something in order to have the live performance. At the moment, when there's no payment, well, then we are out of VAT, out of scope of VAT. But as long as you pay, then yeah. So there are many things you have to think through, and I don't know if the people really know about this.
Well, no, and that was kind of my next question is, if there's kind of an exemption for cultural, what's the definition of culture, right? Is the NBA culture, or is it opera
that's a
culture?
sporting event. This could be a sporting event. Also, sporting events are exempt, but under certain conditions, yes. But again, every country a little bit different.
Yep.
And it does not mean that it's in Switzerland it is exempt. It does not mean that in, I don't know, Norway it is also exempt.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do some kind of investigations up front. And then I would say it's a business decision how many people will watch the opera performance. Is it really worthwhile applying for a registration? What is the risk? From a legal perspective, of course, probably find out, yes. How long does it take? In the UK, currently a registration takes 2 months because they are just overwhelmed, tax authorities. So you have to think in advance. You just cannot say, okay, on the 31st of December, yeah, right, there are the changes and I have to get registered. I need the registration number as per tomorrow. This will not work.
This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended, nor should it be relied upon as legal, tax, accounting, or investment advice. You should consult with a competent professional to discuss specifics of your situation and the applicability of the information presented.